Well, this is a 2011 Ford Expedition, and since I haven't found anything with the rear strut telling people how to replace it, well, you get to see how the back of the truck gang does it. So as you can see, we've removed the tire, we've got the vehicle supported on a jack stand. You've got several things you're going to have to remove from here to get to the strut. Several linkages. And we're going to start right now. It's going to be to take the brake calipers off. And you're going to need a 7mm Allen key to go ahead and affect that. So I'm going to let Lurch go ahead and get in there and do his thing. Once you get the caliper off, which once you get the 2 bolts out, it's a very simple thing to pull it off of the rotor, and then you want to suspend it from somewhere in the body. We're choosing to suspend it from this bracket here, which is right next to the strut. But you want to make sure you suspend it because it will not be supported by the brake line that you're seeing there, that flexible line. You try to support it by that flexible line, you'll have to buy a new brake line. You probably have to go see a professional mechanic. Your next step is going to be to hit this little bugger here. Okay? Now, one thing it'll do is this is a 15mm bolt, and this little guy here might go ahead and spin on you. But this is also a hex, and it's a 6mm. So what you might do is if it starts spinning when you hit it with your wrench, and you want to nail all these with PV Blast or some type of rust penetrant first. They are suspension parts, so they are probably rusted in place by the time you get around to doing this stuff. But hit this thing, and if it starts the whole thing spinning, you can use this and then just spin it in the opposite direction. So if you're trying to loosen this, lefty loosey, righty tighty, to spin it, you'd hold this in place, spin this to the right, it'll back right out. So we're going to have the guys do that. It's Kong doing the PB. You should already do this before, way before you're to this point. We like to do things at the last minute. So as you can see, he spun it.
Maybe 10mm and the 15mm.
In place, so you might have to hit him with a hammer, wrap him a couple of times, and off it comes. And then it hangs there. Now you may want to check them, see if they're still valuable, because while you've got this all torn out, go ahead and replace it. You spent 150 bucks, 200 bucks on your struts. You might as well replace the sway bar if it needs it, or the stabilizer if you need it. So our next item is going to be which one, Lurch?
I believe it's this one.
Alright, we're going to take this one off. And the whole aspect of this is you're going to loosen this and this, so that when you start to take this off, the whole thing's going to drop down, you pull it out, and you're done. Other than that, you're trying to compress that spring. And this is a 24mm bolt, and the back here is set up with the integral to the bracket. You see, these are rather beefy bolts. So again, we're hitting the necessary parts with PV Blaster. Taking this one out, and that's This bolt here is a 21 millimeter. Is we're going to go ahead and loosen this one here. Hopefully y'all can see it. Of course, we're last minute dudes here. And then this nut, this here is a 21 millimeter. So let me back out of here before Bart sprays me with the rough. You can see we've got the whole assembly loosened. Now we're going to have to come back and get this little bugger here because he's going to give you a heartburn in a few minutes. And we'll loosen him up here and then lift him up out of the way so we can get this monster out. As you can see, we have managed to get the entire assembly. Hopefully I'm getting this for you correctly. I suck at film. I suck at videography. Get this all loose and out, suspended. So now you come and you work on these 15 millimeter bolts. You're going to have to do this with a box end wrench or a small ratchet. So again, I'm going to let Kong do this one. So why don't you get in there, buddy? Now, we've got it loose. All that junk up in there. So now we have to go down and loosen that monster. And its partner is right there. On this side, that is a different size than this one. As you can see here, flip on you. This side is a 30. The side with the nut, and the side with the nut, and the side with the bolt. Hopefully you can see it down there. Is a 27. So with that, we're gonna put the ratchet to it, and we're going to have Lurch will be on the ratchet gun and Kong's going to be on the backup wrench. Everything loose. Everything's out. Now you have to take this monster here, lift him out of the way. So that's a 27. That is a 27 millimeter bolt, and you can go ahead and take a breaker bar to it and put a couple turns on it. This thing's just going to drop, and while your partner in crime is moving this thing out, you just hold this thing up in the air. So with that, Kong, showtime. One thing you got to look at is getting your stuff all around these different things that are still hanging around. Can be a little frustrating. And of course you'll have to drive that bolt out. Just hold on. There you go. That just lifts.
Push it down.
With a little bit of persuasion. And you lift it right out. And there we are. Now the fun part is putting it back together. This is a Monroe Quick Strut, OEM equipment equivalent. If you're diehard, you can use the Ford, whatever. But make sure you take these 3 bolts off, and then before you put them back on, make sure you treat this with thread locker, because this is an environment that does vibrate, and you don't want these to come loose while you're driving down the road. That would be a highly negative outcome. To get this in, you got to move the parts out of the way.
Stand on it.
It should just to get the piece in, as he's having some difficulty with. First thing you want to be doing is you don't put the bolt in, that bottom bolt in first. It'll slide right in to the pocket, and then you bring it up and put these bolts in, and then you can put the bottom bolt in. Just the opposite of the disassembly. Now make sure you hit the, go ahead with the thread locker. Make sure you hit these bolts with thread locker on them, because again, like I just stated, having these things vibrate loose would have a highly negative outcome while you're driving. Alright, wait. I've had a good one to notice. Because when you take it apart, you're just letting gravity work for you, and you're letting that spring do all the work. Now, that spring's pretty dang powerful, because obviously it's holding your vehicle up. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need a little bit of assist from some type of jacking device. And of course, this is assuming you're not a professional mechanic. So you will go ahead and use this to get things back into place and alignment so you can get them all put back in.
Wait.
And always watch out, because the jack may shift, and that would cause a highly negative outcome.
Stop.
Again, 22 millimeter. I'm going to run it on in now. Again, this one may spin on you, and it's got the hexagonal thing, so we'll work on that if it does spin. Notice it's spinning. So now, so this is a 24. This one here is 24 like it was before. And of course these are suspension parts, so it's pretty much torque it till tight. Now moving back to the first one that started spinning on us. It's a 10 millimeter. It's a 10 millimeter on the hex head, and you just do it the old-fashioned way.
You 24 millimeter for the 21 millimeter.
Alright. Just got it tightened up. Now that leaves the two links down here, and to tighten up that top bolt here, and then to finish running these top bolts home. Now another thing is this stabilizer link may also spin, so keep those things in mind and we'll finish assembling this. 21. Again, should have already said this before, but if I haven't, you already figured it out. And we're back doing the top. This time we're tightening the top bolts down, and once the top bolts are tightened, we have the stabilizer link to finish up this link here. Put the wheel back on, and we'll be good to go. Last thing is to go ahead and put the calipers on. And with that, we'll move on to our final check. Make sure everything's good and tight and good and in, and then be done with it. It's finished. He's putting on the last few things. Everything is tight in. Put back on. Everything's tightened up. Got your caliper put back on. All of the bolts are appropriately torqued. And you always want to do this. You always want to go back and check and just make sure that everything you touched is back in its original position. Big problem sometimes with sensors. You think you're done, you button everything back up, turn it on, and all of a sudden you got codes all over the place. Why? Because you didn't put the sensors back on. So everything here looks good. We're going to drop the jack out and we're going to put the tire back on and we'll be done here. And I want to say a special thanks to my two sons, Lurch and Kong. We call them that because one is extremely tall and the other one is just tall and big. So with that, hope y'all enjoyed it. Have a good one.